Okay.
Yeah, the live stream has started.
The live stream has started. So should I just kick it off?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. So good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining this meeting in Asia Pacific, and good evening to those joining us from the US, especially as it's Thanksgiving. And I think Vipin, a special thank you for being here. I'm Julian Gordon. I'm the VP Asia Pacific for the Hyperledger Foundation, and I'm delighted to be here for this, as you can see, Hyperledger Financial Market Special Interest Group meeting held especially at this Asia Pacific friendly time, which we've done at a slightly different time as normal, but we have every month we have an Asia Pacific friendly SIG. I'm really looking forward to today's presentation. Thank you, Prasanna Lohar, for being here to deep dive with us on blockchain use cases in India, the boost from the Digital Rupee. And as I said, thank you to our, I would say, intrepid financial market SIG chair, the wonderful Vipin Bharathan, who is taking time out from his Thanksgiving evening in New York to chair today's event. So with that, actually, one quick thing I have to first give a quick housekeeping item. As a Linux Foundation meeting, I have to mention that our participants have to comply with our antitrust policy, which you can see on our website. So with that, I'm going to hand over to you, Prasanna, and I look forward to it. And people want questions, put them down in the chat. Vipin and others can answer as we go along, and then we'll probably have a Q&A at the end. But this is a meeting, so feel, ping, get involved, and discuss. All right, Prasanna, I pass it over to you.
Yeah, so great. So great to be here, Julian and Vipin. In this presentation, I'll talk a lot about blockchain use cases in India, and primarily how Digital Rupee is shaping up in India. This presentation is supported by many partners who are part of India Blockchain Forum, as well as in Indian ecosystem. They are supporting Hyperledger per se. So I have catered some of these 15-20 startups and their respective live use cases in Indian context. So this will be a bit rapid session, and be in touch so that we can brainstorm online today as well as offline based upon the guidance by Vipin and Julian. So friends, yeah, so I think what we are seeing, right, by 2030, humans will be banking with no banks. That's the caption all about my presentation. So I think let's find out. So what we have seen back in 1967, where Barclays Bank has come up with the first ATM out there in England, and that was the innovation that moment. From there on, we have seen many innovations are happening in a digital channel side, in banking side. We have seen how these pop-up bank branches, mobile vans used to carry the banking services during World War, or we have seen 14 years back how the banking ecosystem collapsed in many parts of the world. One of those examples is Lehman Brothers, which was one of the top bank into the 2007, and all of a sudden it has collapsed 2008. Down the line, there are some experts, so-called Satoshi Nakamoto's, found how we can create a financial equilibrium worldwide without any regulatory government and so on. So that was a try which we have seen with the Bitcoin back there in 2008. Since then, I think we have seen at least 15,000-60,000 plus cryptocurrencies in the world. We have seen how Facebook also come up with some kind of a parallel economy or parallel currency, so-called Libra, back in 2018. And I think by the line 2021, because of lack of regulation or lack of support by many countries and governments, and even if a lot of these 30 plus partners has withdrawn their support to Facebook or Libra, and this has vanished. But these are all the things has given a lot of traction out there. In India, we have seen how demonetization has changed the currencies since 2016 now. Almost 86% of Indian currency was recirculated, right? Back then, while today we are talking about a digital rupee, it's going to be another exercise for India. While there are some countries like El Salvador, and there are many more who are looking at how a crypto like Bitcoin can be a legal tender, right? So there are a lot of things are happening worldwide, right? So at the same time, banking international settlement, collaborating with multiple countries, coming up with a lot of wholesale CBDC projects, example, Project Helvetica at a Swiss National Bank, or a recent announce of a successful pilot of Ambridge, right, among six countries, or Project Dunbar and Project Jura, and BIC is now stopping here. So they are asking many more countries to participate in a attention that how can we create a better, sustainable, interoperable, long-term technical CBDCs or central bank digital currencies out there. So while we see the money is moving from bartering system to gold cards, so I think it will not be surprised money slowly moving towards digital assets. So RBI has announced, RBI, which is India's central bank, Reserve Bank of India, has announced in 2021 they are looking forward how money can be circulated or can be issued, how can we issue fiat money in form of a digital form or not. That is the first time RBI has announced, and since then RBI is doing a lot of activities. So during my presentation I'll walk you through those activities. So let's understand how internet world is needing blockchain, and how India is adopting blockchain, specifically how central bank digital currency is shaping up as a form of a digital rupee in India. Let's see which are those best practices, recommendation, considering learning from many other countries like China's yuan, or Cambodia's, and many more other projects. And we'll see how Hyperledger ecosystem fits into all of this CBDC's implementation, how Hyperledger and the overall community support and various projects at Hyperledger mature, and upcoming projects, how they will really create a better interoperable CBDCs across the world. And I'll talk about 1 minute around Mudra Circle, which is backed by Hyperledger out there at Blockstack, the company where I'm CEO. So let's get through, right? So friends, we have seen rise of internet since 1995. We have seen some of the logos vanishing, right? Say example, Kodak's, or you talk about all these traditional models has vanished because of internet coming into picture. Rather, internet has given a boost for customers, what they are looking so-called as a better experience under a Web 2.0. There are a lot of logos today we can't survive without. For example, Android, iOS, or in some countries like Ola, Uber, or in India, so-called Zomatos, people cannot live without using WhatsApp and so on. So that's a traction where almost every ecosystem, every communication method, every transportation, or every transactional method, business models, operations are now riding on internet. While we have seen half of the population, more than that, is on internet. We have seen almost every generation today needs internet, or for something or the other kind of a services, right? So while we speak about internet, digital transformation is a bigger agenda for every government, every company out there, and they're riding every other stuff from a zero digital to extreme digital, how it will be backed by internet. Extreme digital is something like I have entered in a bank branch and they know who has really entered, how was my financial stability, what is that product that we can offer, and once I come out, they know whether I was happy or unhappy, right? So that kind of an autonomous world is coming up with various kind of interfaces. We have seen keyboards or a mouse. So slowly we have entered last 10 years into touch swipe or a talk, and eventually down the line this decade we will have a lot of brain-to-brain interface or gesture based. So interfaces plays a major role out there, adoption of any of the things. So while we talk about various blockchain or internet based ecosystem, these interfaces are going to play major role. So I think it will not be surprised metaverse becomes a new interface for us. But so friends, are we good enough? Are we good enough after internet adoption and so much modernization of the world since last more than 20-25 years, right? So look at this, like almost 8 billion people, and maybe 1/3 people still don't have a digital trail or a digital identity. Maybe 2 billion people don't have a account, so-called financial inclusion support. In the internet world, we see a lot of frauds happening around OTPs, or receiving a fraudulent SMSs, or there are fake frauds, people-driven frauds like fake degrees or fake PAN cards out there in India, fake passports. There are a lot of other opportunities which are riding on a challenging structure of operation in Indian banking context, right? If you look at this, how long queues in front of banks, or there is a thing called as a direct benefit transfer, which is done by the banks on behalf of government to the fellow citizens, farmers, So these are all the operational challenges out there in India, right? There are ecosystems like wheat, or there are other commodities like sugarcane or agriculture, where every transaction happens manually. Although in India, we have Jam Trinity, which is so-called a Jandan Rupee accounts, or Aadhaar and mobility. Still today in 2022, we have a lot of other challenges to be surpassed, where we need a lot of automation, lot of operational excellence out there. So what we have seen in Indian context, peer-to-peer payments, BNPL, or any other lending models is suddenly vanished and transformed as a regulatory NBFCs, right? So this is something happening, or followed by whatever transaction you use on internet is always insecure. So while we are adopting internet today, we are sitting on an edge where every company, every government, every bank, every health care wants to know who is their customer, whether the customer is trustworthy, where can we really transact with that customer, and at the same time customer or a fellow citizen wants to know whether my government is good, whether a bank is really sustainable, where all these healthcare hospitals are really trustworthy. So there is a trust deficit gap right out there while we talk about internet so much. So there comes technology called blockchain and says that I am a foundational technology, right? So I'm a foundational technology. I will improve productivity. I will allow radically simplify the collaboration between right actors. Say example, a use case between banks, right? How can we create a decentralized KYC out there so that we remove those intermediaries, a long running operational process, and create a trust among participants? Example, banking ecosystem, can we create a trust among all banks while we drive CBDC, while we drive trade finance, while we drive cross-border payment, and many other use cases which blockchain comes and knocks the door of many other industries. This is what is needed. So what we have seen, the challenges in internet block today, we are in a system where we pay some part of our money fees to Ola, Uber, Visa, MasterCard, Rupees, and so on, right? Only in internet world, we are surrounded by the hackers while we do our transactions. We spoke about a need of a digital identity or a self-sovereign digital identity. A big tech company like Google's or Meta's are covering almost half of the world of a population. We have attention toward the 17 sustainable goals. We have to adopt industry 4.0 heavily. We need to see how we can create a multi-party trust in a sharing economy. This is the world is looking for, and the blockchain being a foundational technology since 2008 has come up with a lot of new things, new platforms, new protocols, so-called layer 2 protocols, and so on. At a mainstream, we have seen there are some cryptos, but there are some platforms like Hyperledger and many others who are giving an opportunity to create a better Web2 world into the Web3. While everybody knows about what is blockchain 1 and 2. So primarily the banks, governments are looking forward how we can implement dApps or a smart contract based ecosystems out there in a blockchain 2.0. Blockchain 1.0 is completely mainstream. Many things around crypto we keep hearing it's going up and down, although it requires some kind of a guidance, regulation, compliance worldwide as a collaboration impact. We'll see many other use cases out there. So today we are in sitting of a crux of 1 or 2 or a blockchain 3.0, where we have seen how Bitcoin has tried to create a financial ecosystems, or how these 17,000 cryptocurrencies, in my view, in the next 2 to 3 years will drill down to the hundreds of them, considering the lot of regulation compliance guidelines will come from many countries. We have seen tries of a parallel economy, DeFi's. Today we are talking about metaverse or NFTs or a DeFi's, and that is becoming a reality. The industry is moving up into trillions of industry down the line, 10 years or so. And where the companies like banking, international settlements are coming up with a global financial inclusion to say how we can create a central bank digital currency ahead of many other threats to the world. Example, cryptos or political threats from many countries, or how big techs are shaping up and covering the world. So how can we create a decentralized or some sovereign payment ecosystem, so-called? In Indian story, we are talking about a digital rupee. So while we talk about digital rupee, let's go back and see how India has adopted blockchain out there. 2019, India has come up with its first national strategy, which talks a lot about awareness. It talks about various platforms to be used. It talks a lot about how we can create use case repositories. It talks about how we can bring on these companies, so-called Aadhaar or NEGT, IDRBT, NPCI, Rebit,
to bring on a right blockchain platforms altogether. So regulators also supporting RBI, SEBI, IRDA, the IFSCA. These regulators are coming up with a lot of cohorts down the line last 2-3 years, and some of them are around tokenizations or cross-border payment or SME business models and so on. So India is geared up in many areas, right, to really operate on a blockchain technology. Can we create our own blockchain platforms like India Chain is a project is kicked off, or a standardization around blockchain technology, compliance regulatory frameworks, acceleration programs are being handled by regulators. There are a lot of things that are happening in Indian context, and if you look at the government ecosystem today, it's disconnected. I have seen in my personal experiences, there are a lot of entities are involved for every business operation. Say example, claiming your land or titling of your land, transactions to do. The whole process is having too much of a man in middle, extensive corruption, opaque operations, and it takes a lot of time. It takes 45 days, 50 days, 60 days to really claim your land title, right? And if some dispute happens, it goes haywire. So there are a lot of use cases we have seen. State governments like Maharashtra, Telangana, Rajasthan, Kerala, Assam, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand, there are a lot of government use cases we have seen. Like in Tamil Nadu, we have seen voting tracking, although it didn't pick up because of some mindset issues. Blockchain district, something which Telangana has announced to do. Justice and law or energy management in Uttar Pradesh. Issuance of degree certificate, many universities are aligned. Electronic health records in West Bengal. Toll tax collection or e-residency. Some of the state governments are exploring all about. Cyber fraud incident tracking. There are some police departments under some company like Polygon are helping out them. There are RT-PCR certificate, COVID certificates on a blockchain, direct debit transfer, which SBI has done on a e-rupee side, non-blockchain use case, but they are looking at how it can be really done on a blockchain. Smart agriculture and tracking of vaccinations, land home registrations. These are all these use cases which are primarily adopted. Yes, I can say that a lot of pilots are being done, and these use cases are primarily adopted in country like India. So country is not stopping at a government, but there are many other use cases. So-called hotel booking, or we talk about digital currency we are today talking about, cyber security, where how fraud can be reported from one bank to another. Then there are courier ecosystem, logistics, aviation, GMR Finance is working on a lot of other use cases. Companies like Bajaj Finance Insurance are working closely with some of the airlines to have insurance on the spot on a smart contracts. There are a lot of use cases are coming. In a nutshell, every industry today has understood power of blockchain in form of some MVP, POC pilots, under guidance of a METI, under guidance of many academia, many stakeholders like IDRBT, CDAC, IIT Bhilai, and there many more IITs are really making these things happen out there in India. At India Blockchain Forum, we look at many stakeholders are coming up with a lot of other use cases. Like we have many startup companies who are adopting Hyperledger heavily. And what we have seen, how Hyperledger has really made many of those use cases. Example, settlement. Settlement is a company who works in a government, financial, healthcare, and all. And they have done more than 4 or 5 use cases live in India. Jharkhand seed distribution, or Uttarakhand medical asset traceability, being a successful pilot at RBI Innovation Hub. And there are many others, right? So DLT Labs, which operates in many areas, has done a lot of use cases in supply chain, logistic tracking, and so on. Right, DigiLedge, successful POC pilot at RBI Innovation Hub, followed by international remittance with one of the prominent bank in South India. Origraph is another DLT protocols giving some kind of banking automation with a triple entry accounting or a settlement audit, and how we can done a better reconciliation banking ecosystem. Let's look at further more like Newstrade Tech, which is a upcoming business model. They are giving very good boost on a Hyperledger with their product called as a MyFix, multi-interface financial exchange, which gives from start to end complete customer life cycle as well as operation cycle on a blockchain. And it's live in Federal Bank, and they're talking with many other banks out there. Everybody knows Zio platform has become a global. It gives lot of attention for developers and communities to build lot of use cases on a Hyperledger. Snapper Future Tech, which is a very, very good startup backed by some of our influencers. They have done lot of use cases at IFSCA and RBI, and there are some Snapcert or a healthcare chain use cases they have done on a Hyperledger. Ironverse is one of the well-known brand in a digital identity, not only in India, but countries like Bhutan and some of the European countries. They have built self-sovereign digital identity ecosystem on a Hyperledger Indy primarily. Polygon, everybody knows around this. There are 4 or 5 use cases they have made live in many states like Maharashtra state for caste certificate or Firozabad police for FIR registration. Blender is an upcoming company. They are going to go about Hyperledger, and they have built some of the digital identity products on Clefkey or in Caribbean. They are building CBDCs out there, right? So looking forward, World was one of the speaker last time. They have built a warehouse financing, how it can be really build a better financial ecosystem with the help of warehouse financing. Blossom is built on a Hyperledger ecosystem where they are talking with the many banks, and they are technically live with a couple of banks in India, where a complete banking business model of a fixed deposit they want to bring on a blockchain. Prominent, Simplify, Transbank, Quanta Labs. There are these examples. So friends, what I want to talk about, Indian ecosystems primarily aligned with blockchain adoption. And if you look at overall Hyperledger adoption out here, larger use cases are built on Hyperledger because Hyperledger supports many things into the community. Blockstack or Carpa and Print to Block. These are all those examples who are making things happy or happen. Banking ecosystem, if you see in Indian context, or in the globally worldwide, banking is changing. Banking is moving from traditional banking to the digital banking to the intelligent banking, or we are in the crux of digital and intelligent, but in every layer depends upon the previous layer. Example, while we talk about a blockchain based banking, it will always have some kind of APIs or analytic support or a digital banking support out there. So today 2022 banking is sitting on with a view that how we can adopt intelligent banking and autonomous banking as a traditional banking model. We are well versed in India with the India stack. If you go back in 2008, the way we used to do banking, since then last 15 years, India stack has really boosted up the whole ecosystem. Tomorrow's digital rupee, which we will build in India, will be watched by the world. Why? Because we are already sitting on this railroad, so-called digital identity by Aadhaar, or a DigiLocker or eKYC ecosystem, payment railroads of UPI and Aadhaar enabled payment ecosystems or IMPS by NPCI, and 4 more. We are talking about a consent layer today, which is account aggregator going to helpful for many other business models. The way UPI was helpful for payments, I am seeing account aggregator will be helpful for 10 plus business models out there. And today, being a contributor to account aggregator API ecosystems, we are looking at how we can build a consent layer backed by Hyperledger out there, right? So furthermore, in 2022, if you study every bank and a banking ecosystem, you will find today banks are looking for many other areas. So apart from digital rupee, banks are looking for instant payment, instant settlements. They are looking how they can create a better customer experience. They want to do away with the bad assets. The way we have seen many frauds in Indian context. Can we create a ecosystem where we come to know he is a fraudulent customer in the other bank? We will not allow him to go for a loan, any other banking ecosystems. Fintechs are collaborating with the banks. So how can we multi-data data transformation or a data security? There are a lot of disputes that happen because of a manual process in a banking. We need a digital identity. Today we have Aadhaar, fine, but we need a fractional digital identity. We need to know how much Aadhaar data is utilized by the bank. Customers want to know how their data is secure. We need tamper-proof audit logs. RBI every year comes to the banks and do a lot of examination, right? Look at that, those examinations. Banks want to really see how audit trails are aligned, how are your reporting is getting automated. RBI vision statement, which is updated every 4 years. It will give a lot of traction and a view that how all of these asked by the banks will be covered in the next 2 to 3 years. If some of those fintechs are hearing me, they will see new business models which are mentioned in RBI's vision statement. RBI vision statement talk about data privacy, it talks about a need of automation, it talks about a security, cyber security, it talks about many more business models, and it's welcoming fintech tech companies and blockchain companies to bring and do a lot of experimentation with them. Example, see, this is a current Web2 ecosystem where customers go and do the transactions on a UPIs or phone pays or on a e-com or a POS ecosystem. The whole process needs another cycle, which is called as a reconciliation settlement, which is error prone, manual, it takes a lot of cost, and this is how we are creating our banking since last several years, right? Which requires a lot of attention toward hardware management, disaster recovery drill practices, security at every hop, and so on. And this is built on our traditional oracles or RDBMSs or Java and so on. Now look at this ecosystem, right, which is backed by blockchain, right? So where we could see a node of RBI, node of HDFC Bank, or node of SBI Bank, or node of ICICI Bank, and so on, which doesn't require any reconciliation settlement. It doesn't require man in middle. It is far more secure than what we have seen here, right? But will it be possible in a 1 day or 2 day, right? It is so much investment we have done in many more business models, many more infrastructure out there since last so many years. But in Indian context, we can look at this dream Web3 model should come, right? So that is how we are giving attention to many other use cases where blockchain comes and says that we will create this kind of ecosystem, which is a more secure, more decentralized, more configurable, backed by smart contracts or tokens, right? And there are many more other use cases we'll see. So in Indian context, if you study, and you will come up with at least 50+ use cases on blockchain, wherein your banking regulation, banking controls, banking cost overheads will be boosted, right? So use case like cross-border payment, where SBI have done one of the use cases with Nepal, or ICICI Bank done with Emirates NBD. Decentralized KYC, where 11+ banks are doing this use case along with the MITI and IIT Bhilai. Central bank digital currency, which is now reality in form of a retail or a wholesale CBDC. Tokenization is the one we spoke about, how Federal Bank is working with new tech. Decentralized finance, next digital identity, trade finance, compliance security, safe record keeping, secure open banking. How can we better integrate with the fintechs, syndicated lending, cashless district, fraud management? There are many more use cases, right? So where we at a Blockstack also working closely with some of the larger banks to create many use cases. Furthermore, ATM cash loading, which is a very error prone. At the end of year, banks like larger banks are in a crores of suspense account. So we can really do away with those things if you have a better ATM cash loading process. Smart reconciliation systems, wherein Vajra or NPC have tried doing it. Let's see how they will furthermore automate that whole process. Branch operations, opening of ATMs. How can we really keep a track of every branch operations? Invoice discounting. Then you talk about complete customer life cycle. So there are many of these use cases are live. A field inspection, where we have to see the inspection of a particular mortgage, which is given as a loan. So there are a lot of fraud does happen. So these kind of ecosystems, the blockchain-based ecosystem can really shape up the Indian banking ecosystem. Things are happening. RBI Innovation Hub, various other regulators are really helping. In an Indian context, the whole journey has started in 2017 with the bank chain consortium of 36 members. It couldn't fly because it had its own challenges. I would have seen if a Hyperledger would have been supported in 2017, we could have had a better picture out there in an Indian context. S Bank has done some use cases with the Bajaj Electrical, ICICI with Emirates NBD, SBI with Nepal banks, or there 2018-19, we have seen this new consortium formed by Bank of Baroda, Union Bank, ICICI, and 15+ banks are supporting it, right? We need to see how it will, this consortium, because in any blockchain use case, what is required to have a better governance among all the right actors, which is being solved by IBIC. But we need to see which are the top use cases, priority use case can come. Income tax department has tried one use case around 15 years, 26 years, which is another error prone and operational model, along with the Kotak Bank, DCB Bank, and 6 other banks. IDRBT last year draft a concept of a decentralized KYC along with IIT Bhilai, CDAC and IDRBT. Axis Bank gone live with some of the blockchain use cases into trade. I am looking at the RBI Innovation Hub, how they are helping banking ecosystem for awareness as well as making things happen. So collaboration between EBIC and RBI Innovation Hub will give lot of incentives for a blockchain adoption in India, right? So apart from banks, there are a lot of support from Rebit to bring on a blockchain on account aggregator on blockchain. IDRBT has come up with a 2 strategy paper with the intention of how we can create a banking blueprint wherein Hyperledger can come into picture and say we can create a banking blueprint prototype or a platform which will be something like a drag drop and business BPM process completely backed by a blockchain. So I think this is how we are looking at some of the use cases at IDRBT, where attention from RBI to IDRBT, can we create a blockchain 5G kind of adoption or some kind of a POC pilots. IFSCA, unilateral regulator, bringing a lot of support on a Web3. NPCI, Vajra, and let's look at how NPCI will support a retail CBDC out there. They have recently announced they are working on a retail CBDC with the 5 banks. NIBM's role is around how do we create a blockchain awareness, Web3 awareness, digital identity awareness. So in my personal capacity, we have done almost 5-6, rather India's first CBDC masterclass was conducted back in 2019. Since then, RBI has announced around how they are going to cover up CBDC in India. RBI Innovation Hub, we are talking a lot around many use cases they are working on. These are live use cases we have seen at Indian ecosystems. RBI Innovation with the settlement, Stagey, Digital Age, STPI is closely working with the Snapper, Sophocles Labs. Good to see that many companies who are part of these adoptions are covering Hyperledger at a greater extent, and we would like to see how many more companies come and contribute at Hyperledger ecosystem, so that you become tomorrow's Sciences or tomorrow's Snappers or tomorrow's Tech Mahindras or tomorrow's Simplifies, who are working on all of these prominent use cases. In a banking use cases, we spoke about banking KYC. I'll jump on how Digital Rupee is being because this is something wherein your KYC is moving from digital to decentralized to self-sovereign, where this use case we are working with many other banks as well as insurance and the wealth companies, so that India have a one KYC, one decentralized KYC in control of a customer, and they can reuse it for onboarding themselves to every other financial or a regulated entity, so that every bank account which opens by a 5,000 to 10,000 INR in Indian context, that cost will drastically reduce down to the negligible. So let's look at how India how digital central bank digital currency traction is coming up. So everybody knows this money flower, where CBDC fits into it's a legal tender. CBDC is a legal tender backed by governments, right? So when you talk about the central, it's a central bank issued country fiat currency. The way we have seen other stable coins or other peer-to-peer tokens, cryptocurrencies, CBDC is primarily a legal tender at level of a nation's central bank in a digital form. While we see there are a lot of differences between digital currency and physical rupees, why are we going ahead with the CBDC? Because it removes the cost of associated for a distribution, right? There is a lot of cost of distribution in physical currency. And then transactions involved in digital currencies are made using computers and electronic wallets. They are not like a physically done the way the physical currencies are involved. It enables instant transactions, instant settlement. We can do away with a lot of cost around that. It can be centralized as well as decentralized the way we use technologies. So there are a lot of benefits around CBDCs. While you can see that current central bank is interest bearing and there are no limits. CBDC will bring on some kind of a monetary policies around interest bearing or limits around that, right? So this is something where CBDC brings with a lot of there is no brainer around. Lot of advantages are there: reduce the cost, better financial inclusion. You will see many more new products. While we have seen savings, current, lending, microfinance kind of things, we will see many more other products coming up with the central bank digital currency to the world. Now there are two types of CBDCs: token based or account based. Token based, the way we have seen many other tokens operate in a web 2 or a blockchain 1.0 world, where a party one or customer, they can do peer-to-peer payments. In account based, we have a trail. We know who is really operating under which regulated entity all about, right? Now token or account are giving more traction, the type of CBDCs to bring on, right? In account based, we know, right, who is there. I am therefore, we know who is really doing transaction. Token is addresses, anonymous, and it can really safeguard if you really bring on a token based things. Now there are two more types based upon the use, retail or wholesale, right? Most of the retail CBDCs worldwide are a token based, right? And while most of the wholesale are on the account based, right? So a token wherein it's an anonymous, we can just address to address. It's a real time, and there are a lot of advantages for peers, right? Peer-to-peer retail customers like us. Wholesale is something between interbank, or it serves a very good stuff for interbank settlement medium. In Indian context, we are live on a wholesale CBDC. There are many other countries, or they are trying, like Singapore, Canada. They have done mBridge, and there are many more other projects under BIS are giving a lot of traction around wholesale. So this is given by BIS, right? The Bank for International Settlement, how a CBDC should be designed, defined, and when should go live. Very first step, take care of your monetary policies. This is the way RBI is doing, coming up with new monetary policies with a view of they are going to come up with the digital rupees, right? Second step, which is your architecture, whether it is going to be centralized architecture or a decentralized architecture. Then come up with your access, whether it's a token based access or a account based access. And finally, which are all those use cases? Say example, cross border payment or retail payments and so on. So as a part of your concept note, say example, RBI has come up with a very good concept note. It talks a lot about all of these 4 areas: monetary policies, architecture, technical implementation, and technical expectation, and the usage, right? It gives a lot of confidence for every country if they really align with these kind of a guideline. So every CBDC has some features, right? It's a low cost, convertible, recognition, availability. Like there are other system level features like good throughput, availability, security, interoperability, scalability of while in Indian context there are more than 1 billion people, how they will operate on a CBDC, while UPI is there which operates on a lot of TPS. We need to see how CBDC will be there. Then institutional features like strong legal framework and standards. So any CBDC wants to be in implementation stage, certainly we should look at all of these features should be made out there. There are various architecture models are being published in many websites. In a nutshell, it could be a peer-to-peer. It could be from a customer where your account will be at a central bank. So that is a unilateral CBDC. Instead of issuance of a fiat by central bank, can we do with some strong bank or some of those good banks like in Indian context like State Bank or ICC, SDFC? This could be something like a intermediate CBDC out there, and a synthetic CBDC where we see central banks issue those fiats with the help of some of these strong banks. So these are all the different architecture models are available. So while there is a lot of things are we know now about CBDC, BIS has a lot of attention towards how every country should adopt the CBDC ahead of a modernization of a finance done by big techs. So why world is moving around CBDC? Primarily, world is moving around CBDC because of a fear of crypto. These are all my personal views. Fear of cryptocurrencies or a fear of stable coins, the way we have seen Libras, or a threat from a big techs like Google's or Facebook's or Meta are bringing their own ecosystems, and a global peer pressure, the way some of the larger countries in Asia are operating, or US or EU wants to create their dominance. So every country is now in a race of a CBDC out there. So India also want to be there so that we also be part of those interoperable CBDCs out there. Today in 2022, we could see 100 plus countries are working around CBDC. 10 plus countries are live. Jamaica or smaller countries like African country, Nigeria are live. Many countries are exploring alternate international payments like UPI is being spoken to with UAE, France, or or with Singapore. Many other continents are looking at how they can use CBDC among those countries. G7 economies, US, UK are yet to take that railroad of CBDCs. 19 of G20 countries are already there on exploration of CBDC. I would like to see how India collaborates with all of these countries and create a better interoperable model sooner or later down the line, 2 to 3 years. While we talk a lot about CBDC adoption, IMF always keep attention or bring a guideline that how we should have a interoperable monetary policies, interoperable technical architectures. I think in my view, Hyperledger and many other projects like Cactus at Hyperledger can give that that kind of a liberty to create interoperable connects among two blockchains or among two CBDCs out there. These are the prominent CBDC retail adoption: Turkey, Ecuador. So CBDC is not new. It is since 1992 or 2014. Many smaller countries adopted and failed. Like recent after 2000 China is doing since 2014 or so. Right? It is a high time for many other countries to be part of this race. Where we could see these are those countries that are doing wholesale CBDC. Example, Canada to Singapore, or UAE with Hong Kong, or China, and so on. There are a lot of collaboration is happening worldwide. I think we have seen this slide earlier. Example, China's CBDC built on, in my view, Hyperledger. Or you talk about CBDCs with this particular CBDC has gone with multiple other platforms, and now they have done a lot of research on R3s or Hyperledgers or Ethereums. So that gives attention today. While you are part of a CBDC's exploration, do lot of research, technology experimentation, so that we should have a better CBDC implementation. This is one of the successful CBDC implementation at Cambodia, backed by Hyperledger Iroha. So, and I think 90% people are on this relevant mobile app in a country like Cambodia. EU has published their architecture backed by blockchain or ledger ecosystem. So, if you look at the overall adoption, many countries have done a lot of experimentations around CBDCs, retail or wholesale. Things are moving very fast in this context. In Indian context, RBI keeps announcing they are working on it, and all of a sudden we have seen launch of a wholesale, and furthermore we will see launch of a retail pilots also. Right? India is a big country. India has a more than 1.2 billion people, almost 600 million bank accounts, and maybe more than that. And there are various instruments, various bank types, cooperative banks, small finance banks, insurance companies, wealth companies, PSU banks. It's not going to be very easy in Indian context around the adoption, right? So in India, the whole process started back in 2019. Since then, we have seen India kept on announcing they are coming up with the CBDC, but prominently we have seen February 2022, which was a government's announced on a digital rupee or e-rupee, and we have seen October 2022. RBI has come up with a CBDC concept note, typically talks about technology, typically talks about monetary policies, expectations around blockchain platforms or non-blockchain platform, and this is a reality. It has become a reality in November 2022. They have launched a wholesale CBDC with some kind of a transactions, and now they have announced that they are working with the 5 banks on a retail CBDC. Right? Why India wants to go with the CBDC? There are many examples, like just like other countries. It provides a complement to cash. It promotes a cashless economy. It controls monetary policies. We want to be in the global race. That is why we need a digital rupee. It is going to eventually going to help gross domestic product. The value can go up 2 to 3% with the right adoption of a CBDCs. It will improve cross-border payment, and it will distract the investors to do investment due to cryptos and all, and it's going to do a lot of quicker payments and life cycles. So today we imagine CBDC at India only around payments or cross-border or wholesale. But there are a lot of use cases which I will cover within the next 5 minutes. Which are those use cases India will look at actual implementation. Just a second. Yeah, so these are the design CBDC design consideration. It should be traceable. It should be without bank account or with bank account. It's going to be legal tender. So this is something which is mentioned in RBI's vision statement. This is a summary of RBI vision statement. Although in RBI vision statement, they have also announced some of the challenges could be. So this in the next RBI's concept note should talk a lot about how they will cover up offline CBDCs, how they should cover up better monetary policies, and how they will bring on the adoption of a CBDC. Although they will come up with the technical implementation, but they need to see how cyber threats, how they will really safeguard the CBDC and so on. So in a summary of RBI's concept note, it talks a lot about expectation around a strong cyber security, technical stability and resilience, and a sound technical governance, right? It's going to be very, very huge impact on a CBDC, right? 80% of Indian population is on a banking. There are more than 22 private sector banks, 46 foreign banks, 56 rural banks, many urban cooperative and many rural cooperative banks. Now imagine the way we have created our financial ecosystem down the line last 50-60 years. We are going to change. It is not going to happen in 1 year, 2 years. It will take its own time, and it's going to be phenomenal implementation in Indian context. So RBI concept not talk about they need a scalable platform. They need a robust to ensure the stability of the financial ecosystem. How access control should be there, how cross-platform should be there. It talks about the data which they will cater should have a reporting analytics mechanism. It talks about how a customer grievances will be handled with the help of customer support units. It talks about the integrations with other or existing core banking platform. It talks about how we will take care of fraud monitoring. So RBI concept net talk a lot about the technology choice or technology platform choice. Also, it talks about architecture, considering architecture should be centralized or decentralized, or it should be a zero downtime, because there are a lot of practice around UPI, right? But UPI, if goes down, right, how it will be possible, we may sustain. But our CBDC goes down, it will be in havoc. So it is going to be very, very important to have a right architecture for CBDC. Transaction per seconds could be into range of a 20,000 to 30,000 TPS. I am talking lean design. How do we take care of the whole architecture around cyber attacks, and followed by mission critical approach. So this is just a summary of RBI's concept note on a technology side. I have not covered the monetary side because it will be covered by the functional financial experts out there. Today's India is quite ready on Digital Rupee, because India is already sitting on railroads like Aadhaar, DigiLocker to onboard a customer. Decentralized KYC like projects will really help Digital Rupee to get into reality. Account aggregator is going to help Digital Rupee to bring on a right consent model. So India today sitting on a lot of railroads which will make tomorrow's Digital Rupee reality. So why do we need blockchain in Digital Rupee, right? So it will really help better efficiency and security. The way RBI concept notes talk about how can we reduce reconciliation settlement costs. So DLT helps out there, right? It brings on a lot of transparency and audit trails. DLT helps out there. DLT's smart contract can really helpful to implement a token-based CBDC out there, or a programmable money, which concepts not talk about. So it's very, very important for every country. Some of the countries has approached non-DLT approach, and eventually they move ahead with the digital rupee backed, or their CBDC backed by blockchain. So our readiness, we have a comprehensive. So every country is ready if they have these 4 aspects: comprehensive digital infrastructure, where we have as a country like India, well-functioning central banks. RBI is one of the strong regulator. Effective governance, we have seen how robust is the banking ecosystem all about, with all of these different banking models, and a better financial technology knowledge. The way we have seen huge knowledge, experts, companies out there with all these 4 aspects. Reading the Digital Rupee is geared up to really build on a better Digital Rupee on all these 4 layers, which we have gathered from a BIS international settlement, the architecture, better monetary policy, better architecture, how do we access, and which are those use cases. Better monetary policies, the architecture, centralized, decentralized, which are those user access, account or token based, and finally use of a digital rupee, retail or a wholesale CBDC. So friends, when you talk about the use cases, we'll build those CBDC, right, in form of digital rupee. And there are some guidelines given by BIS or some of those experts out there. So create those user stories. So in an Indian context, there are many user stories which will come up and say, hey, let's build digital rupee for real-time settlement, helicopter money operations, transition towards a less cash society, tracking the currency and improve cross-border. So I'll not be surprised, we'll have a solar coin backed by India's digital rupee down there in Rajasthan. We can have a milk coin which operates in a commodity or ecosystems in Gujarat to really safeguard all this corruption or man in middle things which does operates in Gujarat, or a sugarcane coin in Maharashtra, or a wheat coin in farmer for a Punjab, or a direct debit transfer schemes, which is a government can really direct give these cash or benefits to the wallets of the customers. Today it's a manual process, lot of intermediate fraud does happen, right? So SBI has tried with the e-rupee successfully, and I think next wave it can operate in online and offline model also. India has come up with a business correspondent model in 2011 and asked all the PSU to onboard villages to create a better financial inclusion. It has a lot of operational challenges. I have personally been to many villages and I have seen literacy, financial literacy, having right infrastructure, internet. I think CBDC or digital rupee coming up with a better business correspondent model will be a boon. Offline payments, how can we have although India is solving these problems with a project called BharatNet across all the villages, coming with a lot of smart cities also. So, but still, if you go back offline, it should work offline. So RBI's concept note talks about offline payments also. Or you talk about retailers or SME payments. Today we see a lot of QR codes out there in the with the help of a phone pay, Google Pay, and so on. So similar way, we will see how SME can accept through the wallets of the retail customers. We could see these kind of adoptions. So eventually, certainly, it's going to take a lot of time. But in a nutshell, it is going to happen, and India's CBDC will really help country to boost the GDP 2 to 3%. That's going to be happen. And while we do talk a lot about digital rupee, there are a lot of guidance or some kind of a suggestions the way we have seen how other countries are doing, right? Some of the best practices. So let's look at how country-specific conditions. So while we look at our country-specific conditions, there are countries like Nigeria or Bahamas. They couldn't anticipate their country-specific condition. There were some failure impacts, right? So let's learn from other CBDC implementation. The financial stability of your country is very, very important while you come up with a better CBDC model. Bahamas has onboarded, but they have not placed the limits to the holdings of CBDC. Later on, they change that. Privacy concerns, trust, equilibrium. How can we create trust today? Today, bank has created trust among the customers, and it has created over a period of years. How all of a sudden you want to create that trust with some kind of a digital rupee or yuan or a by force or some kind of a literacy program is going to be very, very important. Right architectures, because right architecture for a larger ecosystem, larger countries, interoperable, will give a lot of a boon for a CBDC, well-functioning CBDCs. The IMF keeps on talking about the collaboration. Keep collaborating. Technology partners should collaborate. Community should come up and create a lot of projects. Happy to see how Hyperledger is coming with a lot of ecosystems around CBDCs. IMF keeps on saying, apart from monetary policy collaboration, collaborate on technology, interoperability between two blockchain fabrics. So these are some lessons from various other CBDCs. There are further more considerations considering design aspect, privacy aspect. So these are all from some of those existing CBDC implementation, global politics. You speak about US dollar or China's yuan. CBDC is not new. It was always there and can be implemented without blockchain also. Like we have seen Bank of Finland done in 1992 or Ecuador done in 2014. So there are a lot of things are happening CBDCs, right? And we need to see how we can really choose a technology platform. In my view, personal view, the way RBI has announced their technology expectation. They have announced various others aspect around the architecture. There are many other platforms are available, right? So when you enter into Digital Rupee or e-Rupee concept node, this could be the standard some kind of architecture for customers or merchants or wallets to access offline payments back in a CBDC integrated with the banking ecosystem, whether it's a center or some of the power banks, and backed up by some of the wallet ecosystems or existing blockchain ledgers and so on. So with the same reputation, these are all the features of a CBDC. In my view, many countries have done a lot of experimentations, right? If you see, China has done experimentations where the question marks, in my view, I know they have done it on Hyperledger. There are other countries like Uruguay, Ukraine, Bahamas, Eastern Caribbean announced it is on a Hyperledger. Or there are some countries wholesale which we have seen like Canada or Singapore or Thailand, Hong Kong, HKMA are doing. I think people have done lot of things on R3 quotas and eventually moved on to the Hyperledgers and so on. So in my view, many countries have done DLT based, non-DLT based. E-Krona was non-DLT. Now slowly they are going on DLT based. Like Canada, Singapore, Thailand, it's a DLT based. So it could be DLT, non-DLT based. Just to learn what is CBDC, it can start with a non-DLT, but eventually you need to create a DLT base because most of the countries are creating that interoperable DLT backed model, right? Like People Bank of China, EU. So this is something what they cover, what kind of a consensus mechanism, what is the throughput they are requiring, right? Whether it's a DLT, non-DLT based, how they are creating conversion of their CBDCs to the existing, their traditional ecosystems. So in a nutshell, what we have seen globally, blockchain platform choice as a Hyperledger. Why? Because if you talk about account to account based or enterprise ecosystems, a private enterprise, we will always look at a Hyperledger kind of a ecosystem. Furthermore, you want to do a token based, Hyperledger supports chain code contracts, which can be relatively very good ecosystems out there, right? While other ecosystem, even Embridge has tried with the Ethereum and some kind of hot stuff BFT consensus, but eventually now they will also, it's not the throughput expectation is not really meeting out there. Like how Hyperledger Eroa is implemented in Cambodia, Hyperledger Besu has now equipped with a lot of other CBDC implementation on the community. Hyperledger Cactus, which can give a connector between two CBDCs as a business model for a fintech. While there are other platforms, I look at largely on a high how Hyperledger Fabric and the overall innovations out at various communities will bring very good ecosystem. Today at Blockstack, we are also bringing on this FIS reference architecture, how a CBDC should have a wallet and various other services. We are embarking to build same kind of a model with the Hyperledger with all of these components. So that's a journey for all of us. So I think thank you so much. In interest of a time, we can stop here. So thank you so much, Hyperledger Financial Market Special Interest Group, Vipin sir and Julian for bringing me here to talk around why blockchain is needed, how India is adopting blockchain, how Digital Rupee is becoming reality with the best practices, with the RBI supports and companies like NPCI and banks. And thanks to all of our partners who has given a lot of inputs to this presentation, Settlement, Origraph, New Street, Zeev, Snapper, and so on. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to stop the presentation now? And then let's maybe we can, even though we've reached time, I think we can have a little bit of a Q&A session.
Yeah.
And Vipin, are you there as well, somewhere amongst all these great people?
Yes.
There I am. There I am.
There I am.
That was awesome, Prasanna. So maybe we can have a Q. We've got a few questions, but maybe if people put their hands up, we can bring them out to ask questions. Maybe just for another 5 or 10 minutes. What do you think, Vipin? Or maybe Vipin, do you have any questions you'd like to start with?
Well, I don't even know where to start. That was an amazing barrage of information. So the first question is, of course, whether that stuff is going to be available for sharing by people. Many people have already asked that question, and we will put it up. Anyway, I'll withdraw and have someone else talk about things because I don't want to hold up the
Yes. Any questions from anybody? I'm trying to look through. I have. There's a lot in the chat.
Yeah. Julian, hi. This is Balaji from Bangalore. How are you?
Excellent. Good to hear from you, Balaji.
Thanks. Yeah, Prasanna, great presentation. My question, I actually put it on chat as well. So if you look at it, most of the popular projects banks have really experimented with are around trade finance and also cross-border transfers. So my question to you was, what have you seen the trend around it? Is that been really a good exercise? Has there been any good return on investments in that area for banks, or this have just been been there, done that types?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. The way we have seen initial Infosys have done some kind of a trade finance or a cross-border per se, how ICSA have or ICSA done with the Emirates NBD. So I think is looking at the last 4 or 5 years of history, it is not picked up. But the RBI Innovation Hub has come up with the trade finance that to start with the LCBG kind of use cases is going to pick up. So what they have asked internally to create a process. Once the process and governance created, we can certainly adopt a trade finance kind of ecosystem. In Indian context, there are 3 regulated trade, and few of them are coming on a blockchain aligned with Axis Bank. And we are also handholding some of the non-regulated trade within, like say example like invoice discounting and others. So I think blockchain is a foundational text. It takes its own time, but I think next 2 to 3 years, I think these railroads will be on a blockchain. Now, talking about a trade finance is the largest and biggest use case to bring on adoption, and there are a lot of efforts being done by IBM and many other trade chains worldwide. I think it's eventually slowly getting adopted because it's not a direct connected to the customers or retail customers. So down the line, you will see direct connected to the retail customers are also now picking up. So in a nutshell, it's a gradual process. People want to do it, but the governance process, alignment of a mindset is something which we need to look at how we'll bring on actual output.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So there are 2 hands up. The first one was Paras. You have anything to ask, or?
I think he needs to unmute.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Prasanna, I just wanted to ask whether RBI is going to launch CBDC on December 1st, or it is going to be by next year, April.
So this is a friendly
Any clue on
conversation.
that?
Yeah, so I can answer friendly. So since we have seen government has announced Digital Rupee has to come this year, so so we need to see although announcements are happening, but the actual adoption of CBDC is a big game, right? So we have done some transaction on wholesale, followed by retail exercise started. It's going to be a very gradual process. There are a lot of financial instruments, lot of monetary policies to be changed around various instruments, fixed deposits, and many other areas, right? So it's going to be exercise, and slowly we'll cover one area, down the line, second area, third area. But it has to be start with some go live. In my view, I think that go live should happen soon, the next year.
Okay, thanks, Prasanna.
Next is Mr. Gandhi.
Hi. Thanks, Prasanna, for the nice presentation. It has a lot of information in a short duration.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, basically, my question is like basically Hyperledger Fabric, like how many transactions it can actually support, or in fact, like someone has asked in the Q&A that like what would be the requirement of transactions per second for India, and like what would be the latencies in terms of response times? Would it be in the UPI scale, or like it would be much better?
CBDC expectation in India will be at least 5 times than a UPI. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's what, because UPI operates only around payments, right? But CBDC will bring on not only payments, but many other use cases we spoke about around DBT, BC models, or community models. So, and many more instruments will also come as a form of like microfinance and micropayments and micro lending and many more others. And many more IoT devices will be riding on the CBDCs, right? Backed by some kind of identity or some kind of account. So I think in my view, it's not only payment, but many other areas. So TPS will be, today, I think in my capacity, UPI for 15 minutes can handle around 15,000 TPS or so. It has reached up to like 5,000 TPS or so. But I think expectation for India to begin with could be 20,000 TPS, maybe more than that as far as this concern. Now coming back, why Hyperledger or why not some other, right? So Hyperledger has its own private permission network, and as far as a throughput is concerned, it can be tuned, right, with a lot of other. We have seen, at least in our lab, how we can really use Hyperledger to that throughput, although we don't have that data set to really handle or to test it out. In my view, today's capacity, there are many platforms are available, but looking at RBI's concept note and their expectations around not only throughput, but other areas like governance, better scalability, and better security, right, permission. So I think this is one of the prominent answer. And many countries are, I think I'll not be surprised if tomorrow somebody in India announce, yeah, Hyperledger is a choice to do with any of those CBDC implementations, retail or wholesale, because Hyperledger does support smart contract. Also, we can have a tokens also on top of that, and we can certainly see how we can. Yeah, so I think it's a process of research to see experimentation and to go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna.
Yeah.
Ketan?
Hey, hi, Prasanna. That was extremely insightful. So my question was, do you foresee any use cases in the securities market? Because we mostly discussed around the banking domain. And I recently read that NSE and BSE are also evaluating it. So
yeah. So I think there are some use cases in securities, and some of the companies which I showcased. So there is a company called Inten. They are doing these use cases on securities on blockchain. Even Digital Rupee is doing some of the use cases on a blockchain. So I think there is an also wave, and it's a good market to do have use cases on securities. Yeah.
Pankaj?
I'll mute myself. You can hear me now? Hi, Prasanna. Everything was fine. You presented very well, and everything got well, and I could understand certain things. You can hear me now, right? Everyone can hear.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Pankaj Tomar. My question was, because we have, it's not a competition kind of thing here. I'm just telling, does RBI has a solution which can clear, I mean, not TPS. A lot of companies talk about TPS, transaction per second, but that has no meaning. It has to be the transaction clearing time and the block adding time to the blockchain. Yeah. Correct?
Correct.
Is RBI having a solution? My simple question to you and all. Do they have a solution today which can handle 50 million transactions in 24 hours, T-0 thing? Can any blockchain handle that? 50 million transactions in 24 hours clearing. I'm talking about wallet to wallet transfers, whether it's individual, intermediaries, banks, or anyone, or the individuals. Otherwise, Bala, what will happen is people will start only talking about piloting. Every country is just doing the piloting. But where is the commercial scale solution which every country needs?
So I think in my view, the way NPCI, which is a prominent company, and the payments are for RBI, they have done some experimentation around a product called Vajra. So Vajra was an attention towards how can we reduce the settlement cycle. It has started in 2018 and so on. So it is not in public, but I am sure they are working on this kind of infrastructure to be built, right? Although we always say that apart from payment experience, there is another experience which is operational settlement reconciliation. So I think this is a very good question, Tomar. Only time will answer how we are really bring on that kind of expectation. Yeah.
No, Prasanna, my question is there a technology available in the world which can handle this? Oh, things will evolve is fine. But as of today, is there a public ledger available, DLT kind of, Because see, is there a system available in the world as of today? A simple question actually. Can anyone do this? I'm saying 50 million transactions in a 24 hours, T-0. Otherwise, people will keep piloting like others are doing, and a lot of people are following those piloting systems. And my simple question, I don't need anything else. That was a great presentation. Is there a system available?
Yeah, I am appreciating your questions. So things may not be available right now, but
sorry, I'm interviewing to the world. PHQ has developed the solution, showed to the RBI. We can clear 50 million transactions in 24 hours. That is already there, and we have shown that we are launching in 1 week's time. It's not I'm just not intervening here. I'm just telling the reality. People should know there is a solution available. If anybody wants to see the proof, we can show that 50 million transactions in 24 hours. That will be the challenge to other blockchain industries. So please beware. There is a solution available in the world today for a commercial scale CBDC kind of thing. It is there already, but it's not announced, already shown to the guys, and they have seen it already. I'm just telling the world, and it's a DLT public ledger system. That was my question, and I could get the answer. There is no other system available in the world which can handle a commercial scale CBDC, because where people can have to mint trillions, then transfer to the banks, then the banks will transfer to the intermediaries, then the bodies, they will transfer cross-border other payments, and finally go to the individual who is using it kind of a UPI system. I mean, that's what my thing. But it means there is no system available in the world today which can handle a commercial scale CBDC system, right? Very simple question.
No, I think good. That's what I said. It's very good question. Although sometimes we don't immediately promote, right? By saying ki, yeah, so I am aware PHQ is there.
No. We have the solution we showed to RBI.
Certainly.
I'm not promoting here because we are not interested to sell to RBI. That's why I'm asking. I was curious, I was curious to know, because you have been connecting with a lot of people. I was just curious to know, is there any other solution available? So that was my idea, was to know that actually.
Yeah, otherwise, let's connect offline. Happy to meet you in person also if you are around in Bangalore today. So I think we already texted each other. So looking forward. So
fortunately, we have the solution which can, I'm telling openly to the world, 50 million transactions, 24 hours clearing. Anyway, I'm stopping here. And I stop here now. Okay.
Yeah, please. I mean, since you asked the world, maybe the world will answer, because there are, L2 solutions and other ways of increasing the throughput. Even in Hyperledger Fabric, they had several tests run. When you say, can it do it in the real world? It's always going to be a challenge to put a system of that scale into the real world, even PHQ, I'm sure, because it's not yet in production. So let's say that, everybody's thinking about these kind of scales, and people have different, like somebody just put up a thing saying ZK rollups. Most of them are layer 2 solutions, which are not directly writing, but snapshotting once in a while for security to the blockchain. But anyway, we are already here. Julian, what do you think? You want others to intervene or ask questions?
Yeah, people ask questions. We have an ebook and CBDC. We have in Nigeria. There's many there are production CBDCs, but in terms of that Pacific performance, I think Vipin answered that right. So, but it's great. It's great to see lots of technologies out there and lots of people trying to solve these problems. Right? It's very cool. So, any other questions? Right? Because we actually are. This is the first time we've gone so much over time. I think, Prasanna, that just speaks to your great presentation, right? And I think, is Gandhi, did you have one more question, or are we going to now call it an end, right?
Yeah, sure. So one more question I had to Prasanna is basically, like he mentioned about milk coin and wheat coin. So basically, I'm curious on who is going to issue these coins.
Yeah, I think a very good question. And I think similarly, if say example, if you want to do countrywide rollout, instead of that, we can create these kind of so-called same digital rupee renamed as a milk coin or some kind of a wheat coin or a sugarcane coin, and operate it into some of the communities. If you go and study the whole ecosystems in Gujarat or in Punjab, a lot of manual interventions, although some of the transactions are backed by rupee also, again, same reconciliation settlement come to the picture. As a dream, we can always look at how instead of having some coin we keep launching, right? So same milk or same wheat coin can be issued by some of the banks, right? The way we will come up with the whole structure. So it can be issued against the commodities to these customers. So although it will be like 3 of these models, right? Peer to peer or through some banks, some local banks, say example in Gujarat, some identifying some large local bank. So that's how it can be issued to be operated in that whole model. That was the only concept I said. It could be, should not be surprised. We'll see some kind of such use cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we'll call it a wrap now. Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for attending and all those great questions. If you want to continue, the whole point of this is debate, right? So we do have a wiki. You can go to wiki-hyperledger.org and you can go directly to the financial markets SIG and see information there. We're going to do more, and I think Prasanna, we're going to do more with you in this part of the world, which is very, very exciting. Thank you very much. Vipin,
thank you, Julian, and to Vipin sir also. I think through this conversation, we come to know the whole overall level of expertise available and what's the next level challenge. Some of the questions certainly give kind of a moment of motivation for me to get into more depth. You understand, right? So that's how we work. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure, and thank you, everyone. Vipin, do you have any final words, seeing as it must be nearly midnight there on Thanksgiving?
Yeah. I hear music coming from downstairs, so it's probably time for me to start dancing. Anyway, it was a wonderful conversation, but I think we probably need to slow down a little bit and then talk about the way things are developing globally. Why are certain countries more willing to experiment? Why are some not? What is leapfrogging? What kind of thing will having all those rails have effects on a very rapidly expanding digital economy? Because if you don't have a digital identity system, then and you bootstrap something like in the US with the social security number, which is a big mess, and everybody is afraid that the government will somehow implement a system that is going to take over your lives, so that's the fear. But in India, we have Aadhaar. And of course, the Supreme Court has already said in the case of Aadhaar that privacy should be implemented. Now we have to see how that will be done. Already, we have a system, and how will that system be dialed back or changed? And how will that integrate with all of this? It's a wonderful time to be alive. There's a lot of interesting things happening.
They certainly are.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe Kamlesh, who's the co-chair of our Indian chapter, let's see Kamlesh pop on the camera. Do you want to say anything, Kamlesh? All right, there you are.
So yeah, I think Prasanna and I keep interacting, and in the last few months we are meeting everywhere in different cities. So what Prasanna doing in the Indian community to talk about the blockchain and spreading the blockchain awareness, I think this kind of leaders going to be maybe the kind of the runner to start the adopting technology. And because in the blockchain thing, first you need to make some kind of awareness and some kind of education, then people can implement it, because it's very hard to understand what it is. And so that's why I think, and in the this India Blockchain Forum, which we started is a group in India, is now a well recognized is a kind of non-profit organization we set up. So all is good effort to talk about the blockchain adoption and bringing awareness in the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to wrap there. And
Beautiful,
everybody, take care and look after yourselves. All right, take care and look forward to the next conversation and interact on our mailing list and every other way. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you, Julian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.